The dense Maine woods always felt like a second home to me. My love for camping had been ingrained in me since childhood, and it was a passion I was fortunate enough to share with my wife. We were a team, navigating the wilderness together, and those experiences brought us closer than ever. We were the kind of couple who found solace in the untamed, seeking refuge far away from the hustle and bustle of the city. It was on one of these adventures, deep in the heart of Maine, that we encountered a chilling enigma that would haunt my thoughts for years to come. It was a few years ago, during a 10-day backpacking trip, that we found ourselves in a secluded paradise. We had deliberately wandered off the trail, seeking solitude beneath a canopy of trees. Carrying all the supplies we needed, we embraced the freedom of being surrounded by nature's untouched beauty. Normally, I preferred to sleep under an open sky, but that night, the drizzle forced us to set up a small two-person tent. It was snug inside, and soon after, the sound of raindrops on the fabric roof lulled us into a deep sleep. I awoke with the soft light of dawn filtering through the tent walls. Careful not to wake my wife, I stepped outside to start my day. That's when I saw him, a figure, about 30 feet from our tent, standing motionless, his eyes fixated on me. Every instinct in my body screamed danger. He looked like he had walked straight out of a horror movie, the embodiment of the creepy dude who murders campers. My heart raced, and I mustered a weak attempt at humor. "Good morning, please don't eat me." His response was a chilling silence, his eyes drilling into mine for a few unbearable seconds before he turned and vanished into the woods. My mind was a whirlwind of confusion and fear. How had he found us in this remote wilderness? And what was his intent? The encounter left me on edge for the rest of our expedition. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig made my heart race. The beauty of the woods was tainted by an unsettling presence, and I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. As we continued our journey deeper into the wilderness, my thoughts were consumed by the stranger. I wondered about the path that had led him to our tent that morning. Had he been a lost wanderer or something far more sinister? Each night, I scanned the perimeter of our campsite, listening intently for any signs of his presence. My wife began to ask me questions about why I was being paranoid like that all the time, so I finally had to tell her about the encounter, and though she shared my concerns, she tried her best to calm me down. We pressed on, determined not to let the stranger rob us of the joy we found in the wilderness. But deep down, I knew I would never forget that moment. Upon our return to civilization, I became obsessed with finding answers, replaying the encounter over and over in my mind, searching for clues I might have missed. I scoured news articles, hoping to find any mention of a suspicious person in that area, but my efforts proved futile. Sadly, I never went back to that area, scarred about what happened that morning in the beautiful wilderness of Maine. In the heart of the Arizona desert, Canyon de Chelly, I had set up camp on the Native American reservation. Little did I know that this night would transform into a trauma etched into my memory forever. As I lay half awake, lost in the realm between sleep and consciousness, suddenly, a violent shake of my tent jolted me fully awake. Outside of my tent, a voice, rough and threatening, shattered the stillness promising harm and chaos. My heart raced, and I fumbled for something to defend myself, but my hands found nothing but the fabric of the tent walls. "Can I help you?" I managed to croak, my voice laced with a mix of fear and confusion. But the words just hung in the air, unanswered, as the unseen intruder continued. "My boys are coming over, and we're going to mess you up." In the grip of fear, I longed for some form of protection, but I had no weapon to shield myself from the unknown danger just outside of my tent. If I had possessed a firearm at that moment, the impulse to defend myself might have driven me to shoot blindly through the tent. It was a scary thought, the realization that fear could twist my instincts into something cruel like that. Minutes felt like hours, as the threat outside persisted. Then, a new sound ripped through the night. The unmistakable sound of my truck door being wrenched open and slammed shut, over and over again. My mind raced with the possibilities of what might be happening to my vehicle, my only means of escape. A tense silence followed, broken only by the pounding of my heart. Summoning every ounce of courage, I decided I couldn't stay hidden any longer. Slowly and silently, I unzipped the tent and peeked outside. I saw a shadowy figure sitting in the driver's seat of my truck, the interior light casting glimmers across his face. Panic seized me. My phone, the lifeline connecting me to help, was inside of my truck. Without a second thought, I dashed toward neighboring tents like 100 yards away, desperately waking up fellow campers, telling them what happened and asked if I could use their phone. The responses were a mix of fear and reluctance. 3 people turned me away, their faces twisted with apprehension, until a compassionate couple agreed to help. With shaking hands, I dialed 911. My voice cracking as I relayed the terrifying events unfolding in the wilderness. Soon after, the flashing lights of a police car pierced through the darkness, a beacon of hope in my hour of desperation. The local cops arrived. Their authoritative presence gave me comfort. They swiftly located the source of my terror, a drunken 19-year-old, passed out in my truck, surrounded by my belongings, my phone, my iPod, and other personal items stuffed into his pockets. The police officers handled the situation with ease, escorting the intoxicated intruder away in their car. As I watched him being driven away, a wave of relief washed over me. I had survived the night, but the experience left a mark on me. Afterwards, I reflected on the incident, grappling with the knowledge that fear nearly had propelled me into a dangerous choice. The absence of a weapon had spared an innocent young man from my misguided fear-fueled actions. What would have happened if I had a gun next to me in my tent on that night? I was just 16, eager for adventure and camaraderie. The night was serene, illuminated by the warm glow of the campfire, the laughter of my friends, and a comforting aroma of s'mores and hot cocoa. Under the vast blanket of stars, we felt invincible, shielded by the presence of 4 adult men who were supposed to protect us. Inside our tent, me and my 2 companions were engaged in typical teenage chatter when I noticed a strange sound. A ragged, heavy breathing, as if someone had just sprinted a marathon. I dismissed it at first, attributing it to my imagination. Perhaps it was one of the guys in the neighboring tent, I reasoned, making weird noises in his sleep or something. But the sound persisted, growing louder and more urgent. Then, amidst the forest sounds, a weak, desperate voice pierced through the air. "Please, help me." It wasn't a voice belonging to any member of our group. It sounded like an elderly man, fragile and terrified. The 3 of us fell silent, our eyes widening in mutual dread. The voice came again, this time ending in a pitiful whimper. The guy at the front of the tent, perhaps motivated by equal parts of curiosity and concern, grabbed a flashlight and unzipped the inner flap, revealing a pair of bare, skinny, and ghostly pale legs. It was a sight that sent shivers down my spine. The legs of a man who had clearly been wandering naked through the woods for a long time. The man pleaded for help, but he remained rooted in his place, as if paralyzed by fear or uncertainty. Fear gripped our hearts as we exchanged bewildered glances. "Keep walking down the trail," my friend at the front stammered, his voice barely audible. "A ranger should be around soon." It was a feeble attempt to both console the stranger and protect ourselves from whatever bizarre situation we had stumbled upon. But the man's response shattered any sense of reassurance we might have mustered. His breathing stopped abruptly, and he declared, "No, no rangers. They keep me here." His words hung in the air like an ominous prophecy, chilling us to the bone. Finally, one of the chaperones emerged from his tent, his flashlight cutting through the darkness like a beacon of hope. He approached the stranger cautiously, his voice laced with concern, as he asked, "How long have you been out here? What happened to you?" The old man, however, offered no explanation. Instead, he succumbed to sobs that seemed to echo through the night, filling the air with an unsettling sense of despair. With a burst of energy, the man sprinted away from us, disappearing into the woods like a phantom. The beam of the flashlight revealed his skinny, naked form, a shocking sight that would haunt my nightmares for years to come. We were left standing there, our minds struggling to comprehend the bizarre encounter. The campsite that had once felt like a sanctuary now seemed alien and menacing. We huddled together, our sense of security shattered, and contemplated the implications of what had just happened. Who was the old man, and what had happened to him? And most importantly, why was he so paranoid about encountering rangers? As the night wore on, we clung to one another, our fear refusing to dissipate. Sleep remained elusive, our minds plagued by the haunting image of those pale, scabbed legs and the desperate plea for help that pierced through the night. Little did we know that our peaceful camping trip had transformed into a scary mystery, one that would continue to haunt our thoughts long after we left the woods behind, forever changed by the inexplicable terror that had befallen us on that fateful night.